Now it's on. Hare Krishna, everybody. So we'll just go right into it because we've already said all of these prayers. Canto 2, Chapter 9. The first of the 4 verses is text 33. So you've got a book there. You guys want to move in a little closer? This is going to be very interactive. Do you want to share a phone? How many of you have read these 4 verses before? You've read them? Okay. Did you get anything from it? The Chatur Shloki, yeah. Yeah. 2:9:33. And Prabhupada says, these are the 4 main verses of the Bhagavatam. And then later on, I did, let's see if we can find it. It's in the 4th one. What page would that be? Oh boy, there's 36. I don't think I'll be able to find it right off, but he says that because the Bhagavatam is spoken in 4 verses, that doesn't limit the Bhagavatam in any way. The 4 verses are later expanded by Brahma when he speaks to Narada. Then Narada expands on those 4 verses when he speaks to Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva expands on them by writing the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you. And then he explains them to his son Shukadeva. Shukadeva expands them. Then Prabhupada goes down the whole parampara. He says, Vishwanath, Lord Chaitanya, Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, they've all expanded it. And he says, there's no limit to the expansion. And he says, we're expanding it too. And he says, Srimad Bhagavatam is as unlimited as Krishna is. If Krishna is just a little tiny, we just read in the Brahma Samhita, Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam. So he's in the Paramanu, and he's also in the whole universe. He gives life to the universe. And any place where Krishna is, there's the full potency of Krishna. Just because Krishna's in the atom doesn't mean that in any way he's diminished. So Prabhupada says, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is in these 4 verses. Each of them is as potent as Krishna. So that's amazing. So, I've read this a few times, and every time I read it, I'm thinking, I don't get it. What's so great about these verses? So, the last time we went through it with a group, we studied it, and we all seemed to get something from it. And I'm going to try to repeat that now. We'll see what we can do. And how much time do we have? How long does this go for? 7. Oh, so we have 1 hour. And it took Brahma how long to achieve this status of seeing Krishna face to face? What? Yeah. In the 2nd canto and the 3rd canto, there's 2 different things. One says 100 years. The other says it's 1,000 years. But these are Lord Brahma years or demigod years, whatever they are. It's way beyond what we can do. It's way beyond our lifespan. So we're going to try to understand it in an hour. We'll get something, I guarantee you. And then the next time you go through, you're going to get more. But Prabhupada says these verses are the full, complete subject matter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So you're going to read it and say, what? I don't get it. But it's all in there. He's written purports that are 12, 15 pages long to try to open this up. So let's go into it. Text 31. Or no. Yeah, we're going to start with text 31. Because this is Krishna explaining it. First of all, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So anything I'm speaking, I've learned from Prabhupada and his disciples, from his books. I'm just passing it on. And that's all we can try to do. So Brahma meets Krishna after these 100 years of austerity, of tapasya. He sees Krishna face to face, and he's very happy to see not just Krishna, but all of Krishna's abode. Krishna smiles, greets him, and shakes his hand. It says in Sanskrit, Kara Sprusha. They touch hands. And then Krishna says to him, Bhadram te, good luck. I'm satisfied with your devotional attitude, and now I'm going to empower you to do the creation. Bhadram te, good luck. Brahma offers some prayers in gratitude, saying, I'm really happy to see you. Prabhupada points out in the purport, Brahma makes no mention of becoming Krishna in his realization. Prabhupada, throughout all of his purports, he's always pointing out what bhakti is not. We're not trying to become Krishna. He says Brahma makes no mention of that. Narada Muni makes no mention of becoming Krishna. Srila Vyasadeva, Prabhupada he never misses a point, never misses a chance to follow up on this point. And these things don't even need to be said, really, except some people have been saying things otherwise, that the goal of Srimad Bhagavatam is to become Krishna. And Prabhupada's saying, how do you get this? Where do you get this idea? And he's pointing out throughout the Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse that says to worship Krishna, to love Krishna. And then unauthorized commentators who don't know anything at all about Krishna say, this means to become Krishna. So you're going to find a lot of that in these purports. So this text 31, Jnanam Parama Guhyam Me. Prabhupada's going to refer to this line many times in these purports. Jnanam Parama Guhyam Me. So the highest, Jnanam, I think most of you know a lot of these words. Jnana means knowledge. Parama, the highest knowledge, and the highest Guhyam, the most secret, confidential thing, is to understand me. Yad Vijnana Samanvitam Sarahasyam Tadangam Cha Grhana Gaditam Maya. And he refers to this Sarahasyam Tadangam Cha. Again, that means Sarahasyam is translated as with devotional service. But generally, Rahasya means something really secret, confidential. So he's saying the confidential thing is through bhakti, you can understand me. So the translation to that is the personality of Godhead said, knowledge about me, as described in the scriptures, is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. So I forgot to mention, before this, Brahma asks him a question. How do you enter into the universe and yet remain aloof from the universe? You're part of it, but it doesn't affect you. Like now, people are creating artificial intelligence, and they're concerned, this is going to be smarter than us. And where's it going to go? It's faster than us. It can keep secrets from us. It may develop an agenda. and it may not always benefit us. So it's scary because we're really tiny. We are, in some places, Prabhupada says, we are exactly like Krishna. The only difference is that we are tiny. And we can be influenced by material energy, and we can be pushed around by material energy. Krishna is never pushed around by his creation. And that's part of what the message is in these 4 main verses. When you grasp some of the ideas in here, then you'll start to see it in the other presentations throughout the Bhagavatam and in the Bhagavad Gita. So that's one, that Krishna is never going to be manipulated by his own creation. So for us, it is a very real and dangerous thing, and some people are saying, slow down, let's take this carefully. We don't know where this artificial intelligence is going to go. And it is possible. It could just, we have created machines that are stronger than us. But this one is strong in a very different way. If it has its own intelligence, it can create more things. All right, so the first verse, I'll read the Sanskrit again, because as we go through the purports, you're going to see especially the first line and the third line. So, Jnanam Parama Guhyam Me. Knowledge about me, as described in the scriptures, is very confidential. Yad Vijnana Samanvitam. And it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service, which is the third line. Sarahasyam Tadangam Cha. Grahana Gaditam Maya. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. So this is the Supreme Creator speaking to the secondary Supreme Creator, Brahma. This is big information. It's a lot to take in. There's a lot packed into just a few words. And he's saying it can only be understood through devotion. Here we go, text 32. All of me, namely my actual eternal form and my transcendental existence, color, qualities, and activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization out of my causeless mercy. We'll read just a little bit of the purport, starting at the beginning. The secret of success. Anytime Prabhupada says that, the secret of success, pay attention. What's he going to say? Then read it, and here we go. The secret of success in understanding the intricacies of knowledge of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is the causeless mercy of the Lord. Even in the material world, the father of many sons discloses the secret of his position to the pet sons. The father discloses the confidence unto the son whom he thinks worthy. An important man in the social order can be known by his mercy only. Similarly, one must be very dear to the Lord in order to know the Lord. Okay, so what's the secret of success? What, a little louder? Make yourself dear to the Lord. Good. Okay. And then there was one point he said before that. It's, yes, the causeless mercy. And the way to get the causeless mercy is, okay, good. So that's the goal. And let's see, what is it the Lord Chaitanya was asking everybody when he was on his South Indian tour? Whenever he met a philosopher, he would ask them, what is the goal of life? And what is the means of achieving it? And the Sanskrit or Bengali words, the sadhya and the sadhana. So the sadhya is to get the causeless mercy of the Lord. The sadhana is to become dear to the Lord, the practice. In general terms, so we have a lot of practices to become dear to the Lord. Today, some devotees are going through some tapasya, fasting for Ekadashi. And the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati tadaham bhaktyuparitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. So you know that verse? Okay. Everybody knows that one, I hope. So if you offer me with love and devotion, simple foods, a leaf, flower, fruit, water, if it's offered with devotion, I'll accept it. This is Krishna talking about how much he loves his devotee. He's talking about other processes of yoga, how to achieve him. But he says they give limited results. They're difficult to achieve. And for a lot of them, the results you get are temporary. You come back down. But he says, all I want you to do is offer me a leaf. Just a leaf. Or some water or a flower. He's making it real easy. Then he says, if that's too hard, the next verse, he says, whatever you do, yad karoshi, yad asnasi, yad juhosi, dadasi yat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. If you give in charity to someone, do it for me. If you do some tapasya, do it for me. So some people will perform a tapasya in order to get something. And throughout the Gita, that's described as mode of passion. I'm doing something to get something. But if you do it to actually please Krishna, that's a totally different category. If you do things to get things, you do what you do, you'll get what you get. And that's it. But if you do it for Krishna, then what comes back is unlimited. In some of these purports, Prabhupada is going to open it up. And he says, Brahma has practically unlimited power. And anyone that follows his example, anyone in his disciplic succession, will also get unlimited power. As living entities, parts and parcels of Krishna, we have practically unlimited power. And the way to access that is become dear to Krishna. And through the causeless mercy of Krishna. What does that mean, causeless mercy? Causeless means you don't deserve it. You haven't done all of the things that would get you something that good. But Krishna just, I like that person. I'm going to give him everything. So that's causeless mercy. Even in the material world, the father of many sons discloses the secret of his position to the pet sons. Prabhupada, when Prabhupada came to Seattle in 1968, there's a recording of an interview that he did. And in there, it's a really good interview. You can look that up on Prabhupada Vani. And in there he says, I was the very dear pet son of my father. The interviewer asked him, did you go through much trouble coming here? And he said, throughout my life I've never known any trouble because I was so dear to my father. He always took care of, he gave me everything I needed. But yeah, there was some trouble coming here. The interviewer was really nice. She mentioned that Govindadasi had talked to her, and she mentioned, she said this and this and this. And one of the questions, I just got to say this before I forget, she asked him, when did Krishna consciousness begin? Prabhupada's answer is really interesting. You just think, how would you answer that one if you were being interviewed on the radio or somewhere? When did Krishna consciousness begin? So Prabhupada said, the original consciousness of every living entity is Krishna consciousness. As long as there have been living entities, there has been Krishna consciousness. There is no beginning. to Krishna consciousness. It's always been. And that's when she said, well, Govinda Dasi told me that this started 500 years ago. And Prabhupada said, no, this has always been existing. and then he talks about Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita and speaking to the sun god, so many millions of years ago, but practically for our historical purposes, it was written down 5,000 years ago, and then he explains about Lord Chaitanya. There are about, 15 or 20 recordings of Prabhupada here in Seattle, and some of them are kirtans. Really interesting. The devotees didn't know how to play mridanga, but the kirtan just sounds ecstatic with Prabhupada there. Here we go. Text 33. Everybody ready? You have your book? And you can repeat. Aham evasam agre. Aham evasam agre. Nanyad yad sada satparam. Paschadaham yadi tachcha. Yo vashishyeta sosmyaham. So I'll read the translation, and then we'll come back into the Sanskrit. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. How many times does he say I in the verse? You could look at the translation or the Sanskrit. 3 times? Okay. Aham mevasamevagre, nanyad yad sada satparam, paschad aham yadi tachcha, yo vashishyeta sosbyaham. The first 5 pages, Prabhupada's talking about what is meant by I. And most of it, doesn't mean this. And he's speaking about the people who are saying, purpose of Bhagavatam is to become God. We are all God. We've forgotten that we are God. And on one morning walk, Prabhupada he really liked the devotees to pretend they were Mayavadis and to present their side. And so he asked, how does God become covered by illusion? Why would God want to become covered by illusion? If you're God, why are you in this situation? And the devotee said, well, because I can enjoy returning back to myself. And without suffering, one can't understand what pleasure is unless you suffer. So Prabhupada's answer to that was, come here and I'll kick you. And when I stop kicking you, then you'll feel pleasure. How do you like that? Have you ever heard that before? If you don't experience suffering, you don't know what pleasure is. So Prabhupada said, all right, let me kick you then. But of course, most devotees would really love to be kicked by Prabhupada. And a friend of mine was visiting a devotee in Miami who has Prabhupada's shoes. And the devotee said, do you want to see them? You want to touch them? And so he touched the shoes, and then the other devotee got him and knocked him on the head with it a couple of times and said, now I've been kicked by Prabhupada. So he actually did enjoy that. All right, so nobody looks for misery in order to enjoy happiness. Why would God do that? It's just, the whole idea is outrageous. And especially when, throughout the Bhagavatam and throughout Bhagavad Gita, there's things talking about how there's a relationship between ourselves and Krishna. We never become Krishna. So now turn to the end of this purport. And let's see. It's the third to the last sentence. The demigods like Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar, Indra, Chandra, and Varuna are undoubtedly different forms of the Lord for execution of different functions. The different elemental ingredients of material creation, as well as the multifarious energies, also may be of the same personality of Godhead, but the root of all of them is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now here's the sentence that just really ties this all together. One should be attached to the root of everything, rather than bewildered by the branches and leaves. That is the instruction given in this verse. Okay, Hare Krishna. Be attached to the root of all existence, rather than the branches and leaves. So now we'll go back. We'll look at the verse again. Aham mevasam evagre. So aham, I, eva, certainly, asam, existed, eva, only, agre, before the creation. So before the creation, it was just me. Aham mevasam evagre. Nanyad yat sad asat param. And so, during the creation, while things are manifest, na anyat, everything you see is not anything other than me. Na anyad yad sad asat param. Paschadaham yadi tachcha. Paschat, at the end. Paschat, just wonder if there's any connection to Paschatya, the Western worlds. Is that similar? Paschatya, is there any relation? No. Okay. I was just wondering if going west means toward the end and the beginning is east because the sun comes up and okay, so Paschat means at the end. Paschat aham, there's that aham again. Paschat aham yade tachcha. So at the end of creation, I exist. Yo vashishye tasosmyaham. All that remains is me. So he's there through the whole thing. He's the root. Be more interested, more attached to the root of everything, rather than bewildered by the branches and leaves. Okay, and Brahma, he's the creator. He's the one that's going to be creating the branches and leaves. Sometimes Prabhupada says he's the gardener. Krishna gives him the seeds, he plants them, he tends to the garden. In gardening, what do? Mostly you're feeding the soil, nourishing it, put seeds in, your plant comes up, you keep the weeds down. Two things, you're feeding the soil, cutting out the weeds. Some things grow up, you trim them back a little bit for optimum growth. So Brahma's doing things like that. Planting seeds, nurturing them. They come up. He makes some adjustments here and there. Whenever there's trouble, the demigods go to him. If the trouble is beyond his ability, then he prays to Krishna or Vishnu. Please come and save us. We're in trouble now. Here we go, text 34. Ritirtam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tadvidyadatmano mayam yatha vaso yatha tamaha. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. Okay, anybody get anything from that? Everything is related with Krishna, yeah. And what is this about the reflection? Maya, yeah. Um, yeah. I'll read the verse again. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. Tad vidyad atmano mayam. In the purport, Prabhupada says, it's in the third line of the Sanskrit, tad vidyad. He says, this is an order to Brahma. Vidyad, you should know this. You should be aware of this. Atmano mayam, it is my maya. Yatha bhaso yatha tamaha. Yatha, just as abhasa, the reflection. Yatha, as tama, darkness. As a reflection that you see in darkness. It's not real. Earlier on, let's see, in one of the purports, Prabhupada talks about how it's not realistic for us to become the supreme enjoyer or the creator. It's just not natural for us. All we can do is, as we read earlier, try to become dear to Krishna and try to get the causeless mercy of Krishna. If we try to become the enjoyers, it's way out of reach. And Prabhupada gives an interesting example in the purport. He says, a child may cry because the child wants the moon. And what's the mother to do? How's the mother going to give the moon to the child? But we all know the trick. You give the child a mirror and said, look, if you hold it just right, you've got the moon in your hands. It's all yours. So you can get a lot of understanding of this verse from that comparison. You're holding a mirror and you're thinking you've got the moon. It's just a reflection. So you could fool a child like that. Maybe. I've never tried it. Has anyone ever tried that? The story's gone around. I think, wasn't that in the Ramayana? I saw it in some Ramayana video, according to Bollywood. Ram did that. Maybe it's actually in there. Okay. Okay. So apparently Krishna wanted the moon also. Do you remember where that is exactly? Uh-huh. I don't doubt it, but at the same time, it's always good to know exactly where it's coming from. Anyway, a child can be fooled like that. And a childlike person, which is all of us, we think, I've got this. But what do we have? It's temporary. We don't really have it. It just slips right out of our hands. It's not anything tangible. The only thing tangible we can get, and again, now that I've been studying these, and then in a few weeks, I'm probably just going to forget all of this stuff, but that's why I'm trying to repeat it now. We just keep going through these 4 main verses. At the end, it says, you should look for this truth in all places, at all times, up to this point, to the highest level. So, be aware that whatever you see, whatever you think that you own, whatever you think that's permanent, it's just a reflection in the darkness. Okay, we'll go through some of this purport. Is there another microphone? Would you all like to get involved in the reading? I'll start and let me know when it's ready. Okay, purport. In the previous verse, it has already been concluded that in any stage of the cosmic manifestation, its appearance, its sustenance, its growth, its interactions of different energies, its deterioration, and its disappearance, all has its basic relation with the existence of the personality of Godhead. And as such, Whenever there is forgetfulness of this prime relation with the Lord, and whenever things are accepted as real without being related to the Lord, that conception is called a product of the illusory energy of the Lord. Okay, that's big. This is really big information. And this is a big part of what these 4 verses are saying. It sounds like really basic stuff, and that's because Prabhupada has so brilliantly presented these really high topics in relatively simple language. Because nothing can exist without the Lord, it should be known that the illusory energy is also an energy of the Lord. The right conclusion of dovetailing everything in relationship with the Lord is called Yoga Maya, or the energy of union. And the wrong conception of detaching a thing from its relationship with the Lord is called the Lord's Daivi Maya, or Mahamaya. Okay, did anybody follow that last sentence? That's also a really big, important understanding for our process. I'll read it again. Because, let's see, where does it start? The right conclusion, we're going to have to go back one more. Because nothing can exist without the Lord, it should be known that the illusory energy is also an energy of the Lord. Okay, so since everything is Krishna's, why don't we just, why bother doing any kind of yoga? It's all his energy. The problem is, it's our conception of the energy. So long as we think we are the owner, the enjoyer, the controller. But no, Krishna is the owner, enjoyer, controller. So the process of how to deal with that is given in the next sentence. The right conclusion of dovetailing everything in relationship with the Lord is called Yoga Maya, or the energy of union. And the wrong conception of detaching a thing from its relationship with the Lord is called the Lord's Daivi Maya, or Mahamaya. Okay, did anybody follow that? You want to try to repeat what you got from it?
We have the right perspective, then where we see everything in relationship with Krishna, then that's Yoga Maya. But when we see that the things are not attached to Krishna, so that's what is called Mahamaya.
Yes. Okay, good. And he's also referring to the idea that, okay, this is illusion, so let me stay away from it. And this is a point that he brings up again and again, that yes, it's illusion, but it's factual. This is what separates us from other philosophical systems. We see all of this as coming from Krishna. Therefore, it's truth. And the proper application is to offer everything to Krishna. Some are tyagis, they just renounce everything. They don't want to touch anything. If you become attached to something, you're going to suffer. So I'm not going to get attached to anything. I don't want to wear shoes because my shoes are going to be taken away from me at some time, and then I'll suffer. So I'm just going to go barefoot. Just going to simplify. So it gets pretty extreme, and it's really difficult to actually live like that because they also see all relationships as problematic, and relationships always are. There's always some kind of relation. There's always some kind of problem in any relationship or in any endeavor. But we hanker for that because we are just like Krishna. Krishna wants relationships. We need some kind of reciprocation. Even if we have everything perfect, we're comfortable, if we don't have a relationship, we're going to hanker for that more than anything. We'll walk barefoot over broken glass to go to be with someone. So I'll read that second sentence again. The right conclusion of dovetailing everything in relationship with the Lord is called Yoga Maya, which seems like a contradiction, a contradictory term. Yoga, Maya. So connecting Maya, what looks like Maya, and yoga means to connect. So connecting the whole material world in the service of Krishna. And what's the term, Rupa Goswami? Yukta Vairagya. We renounce things by engaging them in Krishna's service. The wrong conception of detaching a thing from its relationship with the Lord is called the Lord's Daivi Maya, or Mahamaya. So yeah, that's implied there, and then it's also implied, like what you said, Damodar Hari, about you're looking at it, but you don't see it as being Krishna's property. So both the Mayas, meaning Yoga Maya or Mahamaya, also have connection with the Lord because nothing can exist without being related to Him. As such, the wrong conception of detaching relationships from the Lord is not false, but illusory. I'm going to read that again. As such, the wrong conception of detaching relationships from the Lord is not false, but illusory. Okay, I don't know, I'm confused by that. Anybody see something in there? It needs a little opening up. It's a difficult sentence.
Yeah, in either the Yoga Maya or in Mahamaya, so there is a forgetfulness of Krishna's position. In Mahamaya, she acts in a way that we forget Krishna so we can enjoy independent of him. So we forget his relationship. Yeah. In Yoga Maya, in the spiritual world, we are in union with the Lord, but she also makes us forget that he is the Supreme Lord, or else you will be not able to enjoy him. Like Mother Yashoda, when he saw in Krishna's mouth, the whole universe was there, right? So she cannot, parental affection, she cannot express her parental affection saying that, oh, I am Supreme Personality is my son, right? So even there also Yogamaya makes the residents of the spiritual world forget what is Krishna's supremacy.
Yeah. So everybody's got some kind of Maya. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So
thank you. That's there, and you're doing that, and you're saying that because of the word Yoga Maya, and that's true, what you're saying. But I think he's driving at something different here, because that would be like a whole other essay. I think he's trying to make some other point here. I think you might be right, but and this last sentence is a little puzzling. As such, okay, so as such, we got to go back to the previous sentence. Both the Mayas also have connections with the Lord, because nothing can exist without being related to Him. As such, the wrong conception of detaching relationships from the Lord is not false, but illusory. The wrong conception, wow, I'm really trying to catch what he's saying here. There's a lot packed into this sentence.
Yeah. So
maybe if someone can turn that channel down, does anybody know how to?
yeah. Anyway.
It's a little strong, yeah, but just hold it far away.
So what I understood actually, Prabhuji, like wrong conception of detachment means the detachment from Lord is actually it's wrong. Basically, you are not detaching ever. Like either you are thinking about, that's the illusion that you are thinking that I am detached. So detaching is a wrong conception, but because everything is Krishna, like even in the lot of Mayavadis, they are saying that they are detaching from Krishna, suppose some detachment, but they are still attaching to Brahman or something, because again Krishna. So even if you are thinking that you are detaching, you are still attached indirectly. So it's a wrong conception, I would say. It's an illusion or wrong conception that people think that they are detached, but they are not truly detached from anything, because everything is Krishna.
Okay, that was good, thank you.
That was my understanding, sir.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, everybody's putting a little bit in, and we're going to get it. And yes, Bhadra, yeah. And does anyone know how to work the sound system? Because there will be one channel for that one, and you could turn it down just a little bit. It'll make it comfortable for anybody listening in, because they're going to hear my voice, and then all of a sudden, it's going to be really loud.
I'll just focus on only this sentence. I'll focus only that sentence.
Yes.
What you are reading.
Yes, thank you.
So, when Prabhupada is saying, to my understanding, if it is not false, Prabhupada is referring only to the material manifestation. It is not false. It exists. Material manifestation exists. But what is wrong is thinking this material manifestation is actually completely detached from Krishna. So it is attached to Krishna, but that purpose, what we think about it. Oh, this is just material manifestation. I will give up everything. I don't have to do nothing with this because this is not at all Krishna. Zero connection to Krishna. Thinking that is wrong means the purpose is that we have to use this material manifestation and see how it is connected to Krishna. So so we have to see the real purpose of that connection.
I think that's what he's driving at. Yeah, you did good. Thank you. Chala Bhagavati. All right, so now we're going to do some reading. And the way we do this, you got to really pay attention. Move in closer, and we're going to pass the microphone around. Everyone's going to take turns reading 2 sentences of purport. Read 2 sentences, then pass it to the next, and once in a while I'm going to interrupt, or any of you can interrupt if you see something that's like amazing. And we only have 10 more minutes. How did the time go so fast? Okay, so let's try that. The paragraph beginning, misconceiving one thing for another. You want to read? Yeah, 2 sentences.
Misconceiving one thing for another thing is called illusion. For example, accepting a rope as a snake is illusion, but the rope is not false.
Okay, just 2 sentences.
The rope as it exists in the front of the illusion person is not at all false, but the acceptance is illusory. Therefore, the wrong conception of accepting this material manifestation is being divorced from the energy of the Lord is illusion, but it is not false.
It meaning the material energy. It's Krishna's energy. So the energy is not false. I'm sure all of you have heard the rope and the snake comparison. It's really a big thing, and the Mayavadis use it a lot, and they say, you're looking at this world, you think it's real, but it's false. That's just like looking at a rope and thinking it's a snake. So the whole material world is false. Brahman Satya, Jagan Mithya. But Prabhupada says, in our line, they say, yeah, ropes are real, snakes are real. There must be something real. There must be some reality that we're confusing this with. It's just an illusion. We're looking at this and thinking we're the enjoyer. So that's what we're trying to change, is the conception that Krishna's the enjoyer. What we see here is just a reflection. It's an illusion. Okay, let's read on.
And this illusory conception is called the reflection of the reality in the darkness of ignorance. Anything that appears as apparently not being produced out of my energy is called Maya.
Anything that appears as apparently not being produced out of my energy is called Maya. Okay. If you don't see the connection to Krishna, then, yeah, you're in Maya. the thing itself is reality, but our conception is wrong. Therefore, the rope and the snake. The rope is real, but it's due to our illusion that we think it's a snake. Okay, go ahead.
The conception that the living entity is formless or that the Supreme Lord is formless is also illusion. In the Bhagavad Gita 2:12, it was said by the Lord in the midst of the battlefield that the warriors standing in front of Arjuna, Arjuna himself, and even the Lord had all existed before they were existing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and they would all continue to be individual personalities in the future also, even after the annihilation of the present body and even after being liberated from the bondage of material existence.
In all circumstances, the Lord and living entities are individual personalities, and the personal features of both the Lord and living entities are never abolished. Only the influence of the illusory energy, the reflection of light in the darkness, can, by the mercy of the Lord, be removed. In the material world, the light of the sun is also not independent, nor is that of the moon.
Okay, so Prabhupada was talking about the illusion of seeing something as being apparently not created by Krishna, and that is Maya. He compared it to looking at a rope and thinking it's a snake. So it's looking at one thing but seeing something else, like a magician. They put on a magic show and it looks like, I got this ball in my hand and then now it's not there, and now I pull it out of behind your ear, and like, how did he do that? It's just all illusion. The ball's always existing. They're just tricks. Due to our imperfect senses, our imperfect understanding, we see things that way. But that's not enough for Prabhupada. He goes into the conception that the living entity is formless, or that the Supreme Lord is formless, is also an illusion. So then he launches into the next several sentences just to attack that. Prabhupada's books, if he was not attacking Mayavadis and misconceptions, I think you would, if you trimmed all of that out of his books, you would have a much smaller library. It's about half of his books are saying, this is wrong. These people are an illusion. Especially in this verse, where he's talking about this, yatha bhasa, yatha mayo. Yatha bhasa, yatha tamaha. That reflection given in darkness. So he's going to visit this several times in this purport, this idea that the living entity is formless, that God is formless. There's the verse in Bhagavad Gita, fools think that I was formless. Avyakta vyaktam apanam manyate mam abudaya. Do you know that one? It's okay. It's okay. You get the idea. It's right there in the Gita. So how do they get these other ideas? Where is this coming from? It's really a puzzle. And Prabhupada, he shouldn't even have to say these things. Sometimes when I bring new people into this and we're reading Prabhupada's purports, they're like, this guy's really angry. He comes across as like really aggressive, and he is. So this woman, she was from a Catholic background, and she was the one that said that, like, oh boy, there he goes again. Prabhupada is just, he's really down on these people. And I said, yeah, well, what if at your church someone was giving a talk, the sermon, whatever you call it, and talking about Jesus, they're reading from the Bible, and then they took everything they read from the Bible and they said, Jesus never existed, there's no such thing as God, we're all God, what would they do with that guy in that church? They said they'd stop him, they'd shut him down, they'd kick him out. And I said, yeah, that's what people are doing with Krishna's book. Now what about, and her mother had just died like a few months ago, a few months before that. And I said, what if at the funeral, someone's giving the eulogy of your mother and they're describing her totally different. It's got nothing to do with, someone that doesn't know your mother at all, and he's just making up stuff and saying all kinds of demeaning things about your mother. How would you feel? And she said, I don't want to tell you how I feel. I would be so angry. I would stop that guy. And I said, that's how Prabhupada feels. When, right in the middle of Krishna's book, right in the very center part where Krishna's talking about bhakti, the 9th chapter, and Krishna says, I love my devotees, I want my devotees to think of me, to love me, to bow down to me. And then in the commentary they say, it's not unto Krishna that you should think of and surrender. And Prabhupada just gets furious. You can just see, like, sometimes in the videos when he's talking to someone, his leg just starts going like that. Have you seen that video where he's just, the guy's talking and Prabhupada's just waiting to he's so angry. And so now finally he's writing these purports. Now I can set everyone straight. And so he just doesn't miss any opportunity to set the record straight. The conception that the living entity is formless or that the Supreme Lord is formless is also an illusion. And so he goes to Bhagavad Gita for the example, 2:12. Krishna says, I've always existed, me, you, all of these kings, we always have existed, we've always been individuals, we'll always in the future be individuals. Prabhupada points out, he doesn't say, in the future, you'll all become me. Krishna never says that anywhere in the Gita. I don't know where these people get these crazy ideas from. It's really wild. And after studying Prabhupada a lot, it's like, this stuff just doesn't make sense. All right, so I'll read the next sentence and then we can pass it on. The real source of light, okay, even the light in this world is not independent. The real source of light is the Brahmajyoti, which diffuses light from the transcendental body of the Lord. And the same light is reflected in varieties of light. The light of the sun, the light of the moon, the light of fire, or the light of LED, light-emitting diodes. So the identity of the self as being unconnected with the Supreme Self, the Lord, is also illusion, and the false claim, I am the Supreme, is the last illusory snare of the same Maya, or the external energy of the Lord. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
The Vedanta Sutra, in the very beginning, affirms that everything is born from the Supreme, and thus, as explained in the previous verse, all individual living entities are born from the energy of the Supreme Living Being, the personality of Godhead. Brahma himself was born from the energy of the Lord, and all other living entities are born from the energy of the Lord through the agency of Brahma. None of them has any existence without being dovetailed with the Supreme Lord.
The independence of the living entity is not real independence, but it is just the reflection of the real independence existing in the Supreme Being, the Lord. The false claim of supreme independence by the conditioned soul is illusion, and this conclusion is admitted in this verse.
how's everybody doing? I know we're a little over time. Are you good for another 5 or 10 minutes, or? You okay? Yeah. All right, all right. Because there's something I want to get to in here. Of course, how are you doing with this? Are you following this? Is this amazing or what?
Very interesting.
Yes, and when you read like this, just 2 sentences at a time, and you pause, and like, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened there? You get a lot from it. I know I do. Okay, go ahead.
Person with a poor fund of knowledge becomes illusioned, and therefore the so-called scientist, psychologist, empiric philosophers, etc., become dazzled by the glaring reflection of the sun, moon, electricity, etc., and deny the existence of the Supreme Lord. Putting forward theories and different speculation about the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of everything material.
The medical practitioner may deny the existence of the soul in the physiological bodily construction of an individual person, but he cannot give life to a dead body, even though all the mechanism of the body exist even after death. The psychologist makes a serious study of the psychological condition of the brain, as if the construction of the cerebral lump were the machine of the functioning mind, but in the dead body, the psychologist cannot bring back the function of the mind. These scientific studies of the cosmic manifestation or the bodily construction, independent of the Supreme Lord, are different, reflective, intellectual gymnastic only, but at the end they are all illusion and nothing more.
Okay, so Prabhupada's criticizing psychologists, medical practitioners, physiologists, scientists, empiric philosophers. Everyone's being dazzled by the glaring reflection of the sun, moon, electricity, etc. That they're being distracted, dazzling. He uses the word dazzling several times in this purport. And he's going to, I think this is the section. Oh yeah, okay, good, yeah, let's keep going. But as you read this, you think, does he like anybody? He's criticizing philosophers, scientists. But later on in one of the purports, he starts talking about simple people that just love Krishna. It's in the very last verse, just in case you miss it. You're not here for it. The last verse says, this is open to everybody, and he talks about people in the lowest situations of life, just the worst, awful, most horrible conditions of human life. They can take to bhakti. There's no blocking anyone out. And then he starts quoting the Garuda Purana that says, birds, insects, animals, all of them can take to bhakti. So here he's criticizing everybody. And I think this might be where he says it's just no better than child's play. So let's keep going. Oh, but pass the microphone.
Yeah.
2 sentences.
Yeah. All such advancement of science and knowledge in the present context of material civilization is but an action of the covering influence of the illusory energy. The illusory energy has 2 phases of existence, namely the covering influence and the throwing influence.
By the throwing influence, the illusory energy throws the living entities into the darkness of ignorance, and by the covering influence, she covers the eyes of men with a poor fund of knowledge about the existence of the Supreme Person who enlightened the Supreme Individual Living Being, Brahma. The identity of Brahma with the Supreme Lord is never claimed herein, and therefore such a foolish claim by the man with a poor fund of knowledge is another display of the illusory energy of the Lord.
So there you go. Brahma never claims to become Krishna. Anyone that does, that's just another display of this yatha vasha yatha tama.
The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, verse 18 to 20, that demonic persons who deny the existence of the Lord are thrown more and more into the darkness of ignorance, and thus such demoniac persons transmigrate life after life without any knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay, so now Prabhupada's getting really aggressive. He's not just saying they're an illusion, he's saying they're demonic. Quoting chapter 16, Bhagavad Gita. Anybody know that one right off? Tanyaham dushyata kruram samsareshu naradhama. Okay, go ahead.
The sane man, however, is enlightened in the disciplic succession from Brahmaji, who was personally instructed by the Lord, or in the disciplic succession from Arjuna, who was personally instructed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita. He accepts this statement of the Lord, Aham sarvasya prabhuho matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha.
The Lord is the original source of all emanation, and everything that is created, maintained and annihilated exists by the energy of the Lord. The sane man who knows this is actually learned, and therefore he becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord.
Although the reflectory energy of the Lord displays various illusion to the eyes of the person with a poor fund of knowledge, the sane person knows clearly that the Lord can act even from far, far beyond our vision by his different energies, just as fire can diffuse heat and light from a distant place. In the medical science of the ancient sages, known as the Ayurveda, there is definite acceptance of the Lord's supremacy in the following words.
So we'll skip the Sanskrit on that. It's,
Okay.
and go ahead, read that next sentence.
There is one supreme person who is the progenitor of this cosmic manifestation and whose energy acts as Prakriti or the material nature, dazzling like a reflection. By such illusory action of Prakriti, even dead matter is caused to move by the cooperation of living energy of the Lord, and the material world appears like a dramatic performance to the ignorant eyes.
Okay, quoting from the Ayurveda now. That's the first time Prabhupada just pulls that out. Like, look, even the Ayurveda talks about this. All right, we're way over time. Let's read just the last paragraph of the purport, because then we'll get some kind of conclusion.
According to according to the Padma Purana, within the material compass there are innumerable material universes, and all of them are full of darkness. Any living being, beginning from the Brahmas, there are innumerable Brahmas, innumerable universes, to the insignificant ant, are all born in darkness, and they require factual light from the Lord to see him directly, just as the sun can be seen only by the direct light of the sun.
No lamp or man-made torchlight, however powerful it may be, can help one see the sun. The sun reveals itself.
Therefore, the action of different energies of the Lord, or the personality of Godhead himself, can be realized by the light manifested by the causeless mercy of the Lord. The impersonalists say that God cannot be seen.
Okay, so we're getting back to the causeless mercy. So that's our sadhya, and our sadhana is to try to become dear to the Lord. And so that's a feature throughout these 4 verses. You can't see Krishna. He starts off saying, only through bhakti are you going to be able to. What was that first verse that I read? Rahasyam, what was it, 33, I think? The first one where Krishna starts speaking, 31. Jnanam parama guyame yad vijnana samanvitam sa rahasyam tarangam cha grahana gaditam maya. Knowledge about me, as described in the scriptures, is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. So sarahasyam. Someone might say it's not directly saying bhakti, but our acharyas in our line, they take that phrase, and Prabhupada translates it here, sarahasyam, with devotional service. I think the direct meaning is just, it's very confidential. But he uses that phrase throughout these purports in the way of, it means bhakti. Okay, go ahead.
The God can be seen by the light of God and not by man-made speculations. Here, this light is specifically mentioned as Vidyat, which is an order by the Lord to Brahma.
So vidyat means to know, and he says you should know this to be the reflection in the darkness. So Prabhupada says that's an order to Brahma. Know it.
This direct order of the Lord is a manifestation of his eternal energy. And this particular energy is the mean of seeing the Lord face to face. Not only Brahma, but anyone who may be graced by the Lord to see such merciful, direct internal energy can also realize the personality of Godhead without any mental speculation.
Okay, wow, you got the best 2 sentences in the whole report. So this order, vidyat, to know, to know that this is an illusion. That's, how does he say that? It's a manifestation of Krishna's internal energy, the spiritual energy. So we're here, we're the marginal energy, and we are in the external energy. But we get this order, which is a manifestation of the internal energy. That particular energy is the means of seeing the Lord face to face. And then Prabhupada goes on, brings it home to us. Not only Brahma, but anyone who may be graced by the Lord to see such merciful, direct internal energy can also realize the personality of Godhead without any mental speculation. So graced by the Lord to see such merciful, direct internal energy, what does that mean? We could just say Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's our practice. Just read Srimad Bhagavatam and try to become dear to Krishna, and we depend on that causeless mercy. Okay. Thank you. Wow, this is great. What a nice group. I'm used to being around people that don't know anything. I got to spoon feed them just a little bit at a time, but I can throw out Sanskrit phrases and you're like, yeah. It makes it so much easier. As you grasp concepts, then you can take those concepts and build with them, like building blocks. Otherwise, you're just taking little grains of sand and trying to stack them together. But good job. Any questions? I know it's late. Wow. it's really late. I'm sorry. Yes. Shivam.
So you said that.
Take mic.
So we have to try to become dear to the Lord. But does that mean anyone who is not Krishna consciousness is not dear to the Lord?
Anyone who is not?
Who is not practicing Krishna consciousness is not dear to the Lord?
Everyone's dear to Krishna. Just like Prabhupada began in the purport saying that the father will have pet sons that he really pays closer attention to. The other sons, he's still going to love them. But you can become the pet son of Krishna. We can become dear to Krishna. And it's not that hard. When we read the 4th verse, the purport in there, Prabhupada just makes it so easy. It's just so, it just sounds imminent, like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And we try to help other people as far as we can. We make it